Hello and welcome to our webinar. This webinar is produced in partnership with our friends at CCIIPL in India, and I'm Steve Snyder, your host. I'd like to take a brief moment to get some housekeeping tips to help you get the most out of your webinar. First, audio is available via your computer or phone. If you're having any audio difficulties, we recommend switching between these two modes to resolve the problem. Second, there will be a question and answer period at the end of the webinar. Please enter any questions you might have into the GoToMeeting panel on the right. We'll be monitoring that throughout the webinar, and at the end of the webinar, we will address those questions. Now, I would like to introduce you to our guest speakers, JB Fowler, the Chief Revenue Officer with Domotz, and Seth Rubenstein, our Partner Engagement Officer at Domotz. Welcome to the webinar, gentlemen.
Well, thank you, Steven. I appreciate the introduction. I'm really excited to be giving this presentation to our friends in India here. I will say good evening to you guys, maybe good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Seth, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, JB, and thank you, Steven. I'm dialing in from our Atlanta, Georgia offices, and certainly excited to have this opportunity to engage.
Yes, and we are here in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's bright and early on a nice snowy, rainy morning here. So let's get started here. You know, imagine if you, as you're running your business, if you could find a more efficient way of managing your business. Obviously, you guys want to, with your customers, service them better and make sure that they lived in a world where things never broke, right? If things never had any issues. The problem is if that was the case, they probably wouldn't need you guys to help them with their service. I think that thinking about that in a way that, well, thinking of that as a beautiful way to run a world and run a business, but the reality is we know that never happens.
Yeah, imagine that of all these devices that we install, we know that a very high percentage of them can have problems that are easily resolved with a reboot. But if you don't have the means to access those sites very efficiently, then you've got some real problems on your hands, and that's what we intend to address here today. Go ahead, JB.
Thank you, Seth. So one of the things that's important to recognize is that in today's world, there's a heck of a lot of network devices that are out there today. We're at a point now where we see over 20 billion devices in the world, throughout the world. All of these are connected via a network. There are a lot of standard devices that we all know today, such as our mobile devices, our personal computers, our laptops. But what we see more and more is that devices themselves are becoming smarter and they are connected to the network. These range anywhere from gas ranges inside your kitchen to coffee pots inside the kitchen to unified communications devices. Voice over IP systems have been around for quite a while. In the office place, we see more and more mobile devices being added to the network. We also see things like could be anywhere from Amazon Alexa to Google systems. And a lot of businesses are having to deal with these devices and try to figure out how they manage that. One of the things that you as a custom integrator are being asked to do are connect these devices to networks. And then what they're asking you to do is manage those devices. Seth, did you want to add anything to this?
Just that these numbers are staggering, really. With 23 billion devices today, knowing that just in 10 years this is going to increase by 500%. It's like numbers that are really inconceivable. but just imagine that with the number that we have this year, by this time next year, there will be 3.5 billion more. I mean, it's phenomenal. And this is great news. This news means that we have a lot of work opportunities in front of us. And so this is exciting, it's daunting, and yet exciting at the same time.
Yeah, and you have to ask yourself, what does this mean for you guys, right? Well, one thing that I can tell you is that it's not really if, things are going to break, but it's really when. And the real question is, how do you guys manage this? Who's going to be there to fix these problems? And how can you make sure that you are optimizing your business in the way that is most efficient to you, right? We want to make sure that your customers aren't losing time with these systems and these problems that get caused. And really, I would ask yourselves or think about, what are the opportunities to you as an integrator to be there for your customers?
When I think about the kind of volume of devices that are getting installed that have IP addresses, I think about and people's familiarity with having to fix things on their own with a reboot. Everybody we know has a mobile device, and every one of those people has had to restart it and do a firmware update on their own. And we are essentially moving into a world where we're installing thousands of these tiny computers into people's homes and businesses. And the natural conclusion is that there will be failures. We know that. We should absolutely be making sure upon introduction to our customers, we let them know, hey, we know things are going to fail. Anybody who would tell you otherwise or not tell you that things are going to fail are not being completely straightforward. And therefore, it's important to know that whoever it is you choose to do business with has the means to solve those problems when we can predict that they will happen.
So, Seth, to that point, right, there are real costs that are associated with these types of failures and these problems in the field. There's real revenue costs to you as an integrator. Of course, there are revenue costs to downtime for your customers as well. There's your reputation on the line. When you guys install products, although we all know that products do have problems, hardware has problems, it has firmware issues, updates have to happen. You want to make sure that your reputation is solid with these customers, and that your loyalty, to these customers are solid. Of course, given that these are network-based devices, you also recognize the fact that there's a liability with respect to cybersecurity, right? Think of it as security breaches. If you are being asked to install a network onto your customer's business or into their platform and devices onto that platform, you want to make sure that the network you install is solid and secure. So that way you guys aren't dealing with things like fines, penalties, your reputation is solid, and that loyalty remains intact. Seth, do you want to add anything to that?
Just that, this is also not just about the fear of potential loss. The opportunity to engage proactively increases your opportunity to be in front of customers in positive situations. And that's where the customer loyalty comes in. Obviously, you want to let them know about all the things you're doing to protect them and ensure that the equipment that is being installed and managed is operating at peak performance, so that they can enjoy it or get the value from it. But at the same time, engagement in positive ways means that you've got better opportunities to coach and counsel and upsell your customer into newer and better solutions.
Yes. So one of the things, Seth, and I appreciate you bringing that up, one of the ways in which you guys can solve this is really through service level agreements. We know that you, as an integrator, deal with service level agreements with your customers, and we think that that's an excellent way to manage these types of issues that are out there. The reality is that you need a tool that's going to help you better engage with your customers, and that's where Domotz comes in, right? We have a tool that is easy to deploy. It's easy to use, it's extremely powerful and full-featured. We're going to be showing some of you the capabilities of Domotz today through some screenshots. And at the end, we're going to invite you to try it. And we know that what we have here, once you use it, you're going to love it. The beauty of Domotz is that it's automated, and it's, as I said, easy, extremely easy to deploy. Seth, with that being said, I think we should get into the actual visibility of the product. Are you good with that?
Absolutely, and we can talk more about the things that we see people using as part of the value in their agreement. So, we really do want to emphasize the fact that Domotz is a tool that helps reduce costs and focuses on the problem-solving element, but we absolutely think that there's plenty of revenue opportunities in terms of customer engagement. Just wanted to sort of indicate that the two are not necessarily linked. Domotz can be used simply to cut overhead, but we think that there's plenty of great ways to make money as well.
Absolutely. Domotz, first and foremost, and when we're talking to our customers about this and custom integrators, we really like to show this slide. I mean, Domotz is a NOC, or a network operations center type of view. It's extremely easy to read. It scales with you and your business very well. Here what you see on this slide is a map. Very simple, red, yellow, green type status indicators. Obviously, red is an indication that something is wrong with a particular site. It means that it's probably offline. Could be because of power failures. It could be because of network issues with the ISP. There's a lot of reasons why a device or an agent, as we say, will go offline. But it's a first indicator that you should probably service that site. When a device is yellow or a site is yellow, it means that there are important devices that are offline. These could be important devices that we have classified. It could be devices that you or your customer care about and that you've indicated as important. And so therefore you should follow up with these sites. And for those sites that are green, heck, that means everything's running as you expect and it's efficiently managed. Speaking of efficiency, Domotz prides itself on being extremely efficient and easy to see. When you go into a site, you get very quick visibility into what important devices are offline. We can go into many details, and in some of these slides you'll see, but with respect to devices, we've automatically mapped these devices. We put them under tabs, or what we call tiles, that make sense and are easy to use. And then we also bring forth some of the high-level information that you should care about, such as network information, the network bandwidth that's there, the ISP information. We show you what the IP address is from a WAN perspective, so that way you can have quick access to it if needed. And then we show you which alerts you've set up on the particular devices. Seth, anything you want to say about the efficiency or the NOC interface that we've talked about so far?
No, I think that it only should be pointed out that the user interface is really intended to be really intuitive, and we don't even have a whole lot of onboarding required. Most of the folks who use Domotz to serve their end customers, plug and play. So we like going over stuff like this simply to to shorten that experience. I think it's key to also note that a lot of what we're covering is for the professional installer. We do have a mixed audience here. We've got some end clients also on the line. And the important note there is the importance of knowing that the professional service provider has your back. Understands what's going on. They have the expertise to know what it is that they're looking at when they drill down on these individual tiles.
That's right. Yeah, very good point, Seth. One thing to the point there that you made about mixed audiences, I will say that some of these slide shots that I have here are from my house actually, but we expect Domotz to be used, and we're going to show some examples into commercial establishments, businesses. You'll see us in doctors' offices, things like that. We'll talk about that as well. So it's both good for commercial applications as well as residential, depending on who your customer base is. The reality is that Domotz is meant to be a tool for you as the integrator to run your business more efficiently. It's an extremely powerful tool at that. We can go in and get visibility from the WAN side or your ISP side back into the network. We can see what's going on within the network itself, giving you visibility into individual ports on the network. And we're going to map that network for you automatically. We leverage one of our sister companies' technology, which is Fing. Fing does a really good job of discovering devices on the network and then enriching that data. And then we take that data within Domotz and we actually map that network to the individual ports and the individual access points that are on the network. Domotz then goes a step further and allows you to remotely monitor and manage the network and gain control of that network so that you can help your customers better run their businesses more efficiently. Speaking of remote, Domotz is also mobile. The user interface that we've developed works extremely well on your mobile devices, whether they're Android-based or iOS-based devices. You get easy access into systems. The beauty of this is that we know that you're not always in front of your computer when your customers have problems. You very well could be at another job site. You could be with your family on the weekend or having dinner. And when your customers call and have problems, depending on your service level agreement, you may need to respond quickly. Domotz has created a very simple and intuitive mobile interface that makes it easy for you to help manage your customer sites better. You can do things like power cycling of devices remotely as long as you've put in a proper power distribution unit or universal power supply that you can manage. You can connect to these devices remotely, and in fact, you can reconfigure devices, just like we were talking about with the network, all of that from your mobile device. Seth, did you want to add anything about the mobile connectivity?
I know that we're planning on mentioning it later, but it just occurs to me to say a little something about it now. There are two different online engagements or handheld engagements, and one is for the technologist, and there's another one that can be used by the end user, business owner or homeowner. That is a simplified version, meaning not overly complicated with all of the technical stuff, that allows for some visibility and even a little bit of troubleshooting if it makes sense. So we've covered a lot of bases in terms of how to make this truly easy tool to use, whether you're the technologist or the end customer.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very good point. And some of the things that that you will see then, and we briefly talk about this, but I invite everybody to do the demo at the end. You're going to see how this not only benefits you as the integrator, but your customer also sees the benefits. I mean, if you can react faster to problems that happen on their network, you as the integrator look like a hero, and that you're reacting more quickly to issues that are on the network, and it improves, or you could even charge more for that service level agreement that you have because of your speed of response.
And you know, something I guess I would like to just jump in. You know, from a visibility and awareness standpoint, one of the most popular features is that network speed that JB already showed. You know, more often than not, a service provider will you know, claim that it's not, you know, the issue is from within the facility, not coming to it. And to be able to point to a tool that is proving that the signal to the facility is the problem helps get resolution faster, which is what everybody really wants. You know, it's not that we want a lot of finger pointing, but what we do want is for service to be restored. And the best way to get there is to know what the source of the problem is. And this has been a really powerful tool for helping the end customer be able to see and communicate to the right source what the problem is.
Interesting you say that, Seth. I mean, this is a recent snapshot of my network. And you can see back here, and I don't know, it was July, August timeframe, I changed ISPs and went to more of a cable modem service. It gave me a little bit higher throughput, but it was very, I guess I'd say, unstable. Interestingly enough, around mid-October, I had a power outage here. And with that power outage, my service dropped. I was able to call up the ISP and show them this data because they didn't believe that something had happened. And then lo and behold, just a couple days ago, they came out and you can see that the network bandwidth is now starting to improve. So very good case in point, and I appreciate you mentioning that. You know, we were talking about you guys being reactive and how you can solve problems faster with Domotz. The reality is you can actually be proactive. And by proactive, I mean you guys can understand what's going on in the network before your customer even recognizes there's a problem. You can set alerts on important devices, which when they go offline, you will be able to immediately respond to issues before your customer may even know there's a problem. If a wireless access point drops offline, you know, probably your customer will know if that's the only wireless access point. But if a security camera drops offline, they may not know about it until they go back and look at it. We will know immediately that a security camera has fallen offline so that you can quickly respond to your customer's site. You should be able to, with Domotz, go into the network switch and power cycle that camera. You also will be able to log into that camera and see whether it's functioning properly or as expected or not. You can set up alerts through push notifications to our app in the mobile device. You certainly can do emails as well. The beautiful thing about email alerts is that you can integrate it with ticketing systems. So things like Zendesk or other tools that you may use that allow you to set up tickets automatically. So that way your service team knows exactly what they need to do that day. The beauty of our this integration as well is that if the camera or the device that's important to you comes back online, you can actually close that ticket as well, depending on the type of ticketing system that you use. We do advanced alerting. We can actually send alerts off of network performance issues. Like if bandwidths drop below what you expect, you can set up alerts. We can even do individual SNMP alerts. So if you are monitoring things like the temperature of a rack, or even if you want to monitor ink levels on a printer for your customer so that you know when you need to change the toner. You can do that through Domotz and these types of notifications. We even have advanced plans that you'll see where we can start to alert on security issues. Things like ports being opened from the WAN side, or ports being opened on the for UPnP reasons. Those are obviously cybersecurity threats that you should be concerned about with networks that you install. Seth, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just that, you know, we're in the interest of time, and of course there's lots of ground to cover. We're necessarily going to be moving over some topic areas that certainly be expounded on, and we can certainly do that in follow-up conversations and even in sessions that go deeper, like the SNMP. You know, the real power that is available through Domotz, with all of the flexibility and customization that's possible, our tool could be applied to, you know, innumerable applications. You know, the printer example is a great one. There's plenty of devices out there that they may be putting out into the cyberspace, you know, some sort of status about their well-being, but nobody's listening. And having a universal tool like this that is able to harness those broadcasts and bring it into a real simple interface, and then be able to customize, you know, on what thresholds you receive notifications. You know, the ink levels on the printers is a great one. You know, as somebody who is a consumer as well, you know, I'm thinking I would much rather find out about issues after they've been fixed than to have to find out about them only to then need to figure out how to fix them. So that's really where we come in with all the development that we've done on the back end, and all the grace of which we've put together this tool, is to make things really simple for the technologist and as well as the end user.
Yeah, very good. You know, speaking of that development that we've done on the back end, Seth, I certainly want to point out that Domotz is secure. In fact, we're extremely secure when it comes to the communications that happens between your laptop or the mobile device and our cloud, as well as the cloud back into the network that you're monitoring. We pride ourselves on security, and all the communications that happens between the application you're using, the cloud, and even the cloud to that network, and the agent that sits on that network is encrypted with the highest levels of security. We also employ things like two-factor authentication to make sure that your account is not compromised. So that's something that we pride ourselves on. Interestingly enough, speaking about security cameras, you'll see, and this is something that we really don't touch on much in this webinar, but Domotz in the user interface has the ability to see images from security cameras. This is an OnViv based camera. We use some of the OnViv protocols to be able to look at the camera, and then we don't open up any ports on the WAN side. We're not doing VPN connections. What we're using is our secure tunneling technology to be able to pass information from that camera to the application that's being used. Seth, did you want to mention anything else about this?
You know, I just want to say, you know, recently I bought a camera. JB and I were here in the Atlanta office and picked up one from a local distributor, and opened up the box like anybody else would do, and looked at the manual, and it's got step-by-step instructions in it, and step 3 in bold print, it said port forwarding, right? And it proceeds to give instructions on how to effectively do something that we know is absolutely a breach of security, which is opening up ports. And technologists on the installation side know that these are things that we're not supposed to do, but it's even a little misleading coming from some of the vendors in terms of what security measures can and should be taken. And so your emphasis on how secure we are is really not a light subject. I mean, that's what the Domotz platform was founded on, was security.
Yes.
We know that if we're responsible for any breaches, it'll be catastrophic for us. So, we as a partner can certainly be relied on, not only for having taken those measures ourselves, but helping the contractors who use our product to be even better at providing secure services, even more so than most other technologies, simply because it's not their focus.
You're exactly right on that, Seth. It's interesting that our manufacturers tell you to open up ports and do those types of things when that's just an extreme cybersecurity risk anymore, and we definitely don't want to be dealing with that. So let's move on here. Let me point out that Domotz really is everywhere. We've been around for about 4 to 5 years now. We have monitored over 65,000 networks. We've got over 5,000 active customers using Domotz on a daily basis, and we are throughout the world. So I'm really excited about that. And let's go into some examples here, Seth, where we see, I've obviously shown you how it's in my home today. We see integrators that are doing residential jobs using Domotz all the time, every day, to run their business more efficiently and provide that proactive service to their customers. But what we find is that Domotz is also in restaurants. As an example, here in the United States, in Texas, we've got places like Emporium Pies, which is really more of it's a small mom and pop shop that their IT department uses Domotz to manage the network equipment throughout their sites that they have in Texas. They look at the VLANs within their network that they've set up, and they look at different subnets. So they have a security system that has cameras and access control for their stores. They have the ability to make sure that each one of those network-based systems are online and running properly. When you're dealing with a retail or a restaurant, obviously point of sale systems are extremely important, right? Companies like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, certainly if their point of sale systems or if their digital signage applications go down, that's an extremely bad thing. Using Domotz to understand that there's a problem on the network before the customer see it or before the store manager sees it gives you that proactive monitoring capability. So Domotz really helps you in that sense. Seth, did you want to add anything to this?
The fact that we are in so many different places, and we have helped companies think through how it is that they can centralize visibility, even when there's chains of stores, retail or otherwise, or even companies that have multiple locations, to be able to centralize the awareness and not be dependent on self-reporting. Somebody who recognizes that a digital display or a menu is down during a peak hour and cannot make a call to some central hub and ask for help. It may not even think about it when the shift ends. They're exhausted. Who otherwise will know to fix something like that? A drive-through window, for example. So it's important for central stations to have a lot of visibility from their location.
Yeah, and one of the important things, and this kind of goes along the lines of restaurants, but it also extends into gymnasiums. It extends into other establishments where things may be franchised, where you have an enterprise that is selling their services and or their foods, their brand to franchisees. Crystal is an example of this in the United States, but we see gymnasiums. We have places called Orange Theory Fitness that in the US that are franchised, where integrators can be brought in to help set up their establishments. I bring Crystal in because, and they're kind of like a restaurant in the sense that they have this IT department, but it is a centralized enterprise that monitors things. One of the things that they're looking at is how are the point of sale systems going on and offline, and are what the franchisee saying, is it correct? They're looking at how the kitchen appliances are being utilized. So when we talked before about SNMP or simple network monitoring or management protocols, the IT department is looking at how the appliances are operating, and is the data being gathered from those appliances accurate and correct. They're looking at, will they need to service those systems because they're coming up upon the usable hours. So there's a lot of power in what Domotz can do in helping you with your service level agreements with your customers.
And you know, it's important to note that, you know, Domotz is not in the content business, right? We're not interested in what is being transmitted. We're interested in making sure that the health of the technology being used is being maintained. And so, you know, I know that there were going to be sensitivities, and rightly so, about, well, what does it mean to manage a point of sale system? Well, it's all about whether or not the device is functioning, and not about the specific traffic. And we have to be conscious about that, and know that we're very that's very important to us. And even you know, from a cloud standpoint, you know, we anonymize the information so that it's not even something that we could be held accountable for collecting, because it's not the business that we're in.
Yep, exactly. Well, in the interest of time, Seth, let's move on, because we have about 10 minutes left before we get to the Q&A.
Sure.
You know, Domotz is also in the commercial space with respect to unified communications, managing video conferencing systems, managing voice over IP type systems. I love this example of an integrator here in the United States that their support team, right, their call center, if you will, leverages Domotz to not only be proactive with their customers, but if they have an issue with a site, they have the ability through Domotz to remotely connect into that site and reprogram the control system that's in there. They can get in and ensure that the unified communications or the video conferencing system is functioning properly. So I'm really impressed with how SAV uses Domotz and what they do. And then let me move to the next one, because it's along the same lines, where we see Domotz in higher education as well as K through 12 system. So, you know, the educational system. We have IT departments and support departments using Domotz to remotely look at each one of the sites or the buildings within a school system. And like what SAV does, where they're managing audiovisual equipment, the IT department has the ability to see when a professor, if he is moving offices or moving from one office to another, if he takes his voice over IP phone and moves it to another room and plugs it into the wrong port, Domotz provides that IT department immediate information about the status change of that phone. And what's amazing is that the IT department actually has the ability to log into the network switches and reconfigure the VLAN so that the voice over IP phone gets put back onto the proper network. It's an amazing way in which we help them be fast, more proficient, and they can react to it before the professor calls with a problem about his phone. So it's really nice. Any other comments on those two topics, Seth?
No, I think we're good.
All right. So all that being said, And this touches back on the point that Domotz was really built with simplicity in mind, as well as security in mind. We had a question come on, which is Domotz an IoT device? The reality is that Domotz is an agent. It's this little black box or appliance that sits on the network, that is scanning the network. It's looking at all the devices. This one agent is what is checking to ensure that the local area network that's being monitored, or even the subnets and VLANs that are being monitored, are functioning as you expect. It securely communicates with this Domotz cloud. The Domotz cloud is an extremely powerful, and it's really where a lot of the intelligence of Domotz sits. And it's what is communicating back to that agent to see and check that things are working properly. It's also doing the speed tests that you may want to have on the network. If you're sending specific commands or doing remote connectivity, all that happens through the cloud in a secure way. There's also a secure channel that goes back to the application that you're using. And while we haven't talked about this in great detail, for those of you that are developers out there, you'd be happy to know that Domotz employs RESTful APIs that you as an integrator can use to create your own applications and see some of the power of Domotz within your own user interface. Or you can create your own dashboards for not only you to help you run your business more efficiently, but you can also take those APIs and create your own customer-facing apps if you want. That being said, Domotz does have a customer-facing app that you can give to your customers so that they can see what's on the network. So there's a lot of power in what Domotz provides as a service. Seth, is there anything that you want to touch on before we close out some of our...
Yeah, that you just started to mention the Violet app. We call it Violet because we really don't want to create a direct connection between Violet and Domotz. Domotz is not the service provider. The contractor, integrator, installing company is the main emphasis. And sort of back to your the slide where we had tens of thousands of monitored networks and thousands of customers. We got 1 million scans being done a day, but Domotz isn't the brand. The brand that matters is really the relationship between the contractor and the end customer. And we just want to be the facilitating tool. We showed you some restaurants and some examples of boardrooms and schools, colleges, and universities. The BBC is a customer of Domotz. Best Buy, the Electoral Commission of South Wales is a customer of Domotz. Healthcare institutions, construction companies and building management companies, facilities management, IT and MSP contractors are customers of ours. We've got smart cities and smart homes. We're all over the place, but really we don't want to steal the thunder or be the distraction in the most important relationship, and that's between the end user of this technology and the company that is facilitating uninterrupted use of that technology, and that's really what we're here to emphasize.
That's exactly right, Seth. And one of the things about those customers that you mentioned, I mean, we have other very large retail customers that use us for monitoring their digital signage and monitoring, like I said, their point of sale systems. We talked about that quite a bit. The customer facing app that we have, the beauty of that product is that it really allows you to give your customers some visibility into their system while safeguarding all of the setup and the configurations that you've put in place. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that so that way everybody understands that. And then, like I said, with respect to the APIs, if you want to customize your interface even more, you can do that, and the power is within your hands. And all of that is available through, or at least the information through that is available on our website. So that being said, Seth, just as a little bit of humor here, if you're not using remote monitoring and management, or you're not ready to use that, you may be one of these guys that are stuck out in the middle of this really large traffic jam. It really doesn't take a rocket scientist here to understand that there's a much better way to manage integrated systems out there. And using a tool like Domotz is the way in which we're going to help you there. And
yeah,
I love this.
Truck rolls are an industry term to indicate, that poor guy stuck in the middle of that traffic jam. This is the only kind of truck roll that we think is good. Right?
That's right.
Coming from California, there's California rolls, and I've had dragon rolls and all kinds of rolls. Truck rolls, this is the only kind you really would be enjoying.
That's right. That's right. I love it. That is a funny image there, Seth. So I absolutely want to invite everybody on this webinar to try Domotz. It's very easy. We have two different ways that you can see Domotz today. First of all, visit domotz.com. You'll notice at the top right, there's the ability to see, or there's a demo button that you can log into this network and see different types of setups and configurations. Because that's a demo, it's limited on what you can do. If you really want to try it, I certainly recommend you sign up for our 21-day free trial. Once you do that and sign up with an account, you will be able to download an agent. You can download agents on various forms. You can put it on NAS drives that you may have. We have a Windows agent that you can download and just run it directly on your PC. If you are into the open source community, you certainly can download the Domotz agent and run it on a Debian or Ubuntu type server and test out how it works on your network. We think that that's the best way to get a good understanding of Domotz and what it does. So with that being said, I certainly want to take time to answer a couple questions here. It looks like we've had a few things come in. Steven, do you want to let us know what we have here, or ask the questions, and Seth and I'll answer that?
Sure, JB. Hey, great job, guys. We have had a few questions come in. The first few questions you were actually able to incorporate into the presentation. There was one about, is this an IoT device? And you talked about the devices that we have for scanning, or the ability we have for scanning. Also, can I brand Domotz? Did you want to elaborate anything else on those two devices?
Absolutely.
Those two questions.
Yeah, let me touch on the IoT question that came in. So, in the sense that IoT implies Internet of Things, I would absolutely say that Domotz is yet another IoT device that sits on your network. The reality is that the agent itself does grab an IP address, and it is scanning the network. The beauty, though, of what Domotz does is it allows you to manage all of the different IoT devices that are coming on your network, whether they are audio devices, video devices. If you have PCs that come on the network, you can do things like remote desktop protocol and manage systems through that. You can connect via Telnet, SSH, or HTTP to get into the device and use its specific protocol to help manage that device. That's really the beauty of that. You asked about branding of Domotz as well, Steven. Let me point out, and as I mentioned at the end here, the fact that Domotz has introduced RESTful APIs allows the integrator to take and create custom interfaces in a way that is brand specific to them. In many cases, you may want to run reports. Domotz does have the ability to run reports directly inside each agent, and you can send those reports directly to your customers. But if you want to customize those reports, you actually can make calls through APIs, gather the data that you care about, map it in a way that makes sense, or put it in a PDF that makes sense for you and your customers, and send that out. We believe that it's very important that you bring your brand to the customer and that you're not taking Domotz to the customer. Domotz is really meant to be a tool for you, and it's your brand that matters. Seth, do you want to add anything to that?
Just that back to the Violet app, there's the ability for the contractor, the user, to sort of put in safeguards and make sure that we haven't over-enabled people, so that the end customer with the ability to hurt the system, so to speak, with accidentally doing something wrong that shouldn't have been done. So we've taken all of that into consideration, and as we mentioned, the emphasis is really on just creating a more positive bond between the technologist and the end customer. As far as branding goes, if there are questions about, we actually let the contractor brand the Violet app with their own logo to help enhance that relationship. But branding of the boxes, if you have questions about that, you can talk to, and we can do that in quantity, and you can talk to our friends at CCIIPL about that. I've been asked to let you know that. Certainly any questions that you have, if you are an end customer and you want your technologist to be using Domotz, you certainly point them our way. Sales, S-A-L-E-S, at domotz.com. It's something I received. JB will also see it. Feel free to send any questions or point anyone our direction. We also have an active engagement with other equipment manufacturers. Obviously, if we can more proactively engage with them, then we can make their tools even more accessible and easier to use. So we bring out the best in partners. That's what we believe partners do, is bring out the best in one another. And there are other brands like Luxol and Ruckus and other products that you would be familiar with. We already work with many of them, but certainly happy to work with even more. So we welcome those introductions. We will be at the Integrated Systems Europe event coming up in early February, and for anyone who wants to come visit us there, we've got a booth or a stand in the area that actually opens an hour ahead of the rest of the entire facility. And for better or worse, that means a little earlier wake-up call for our team. But we'll be there and happy to meet, greet, and answer questions in person, shake some hands. Be great to see you there.
So Seth, we have a couple more minutes, and I think we have a few more questions.
We do. We have a number of questions coming in. By the way, Seth and JB, thanks for mentioning this. I just want to reiterate that if you do have questions about the partner program or anything like that with what you can do in terms of branding this as your own, then definitely contact either CCIIPL directly or contact sales@domotz.com. Some of the questions we have coming in have been about SNMP sensors and installing the Domotz agent. I think this would be either the Linux or the Windows agent on a device. JB and Seth, you want to take a minute to talk about both the sensor capability and maybe the agent installation process?
So the question that I see is that, do we have to install an agent on monitored devices? The answer to that is no. You do not need to install any software onto the monitored devices. The beauty of what Domotz offers is that you have a single agent that sits on the network that you are monitoring. You can, and the easiest way to deploy that agent is through the black box or the appliance that is made available through CCIIPL and Domotz. With respect to the SNMP sensors, the SNMP is a much more advanced topic. And I'll just briefly mention that we have a lot of information on our website and our knowledge base about the simple networking management protocol. But Domotz absolutely has the ability to look at all the MIBs and OIDs that are available through SNMP, and then trigger alerts based on values of those. So there's a lot of power in that.
And just a little plug here too. I know this is our first webinar with the group out in India, so we're excited to have done this, but I understand also that we expect to do some more of the advanced technical webinars in the future too. So definitely keep your ear open for any upcoming webinars that are coming through the channel in India.
So let me address this next question, Steven.
Sure thing.
So we have one that's asking about features like Wake on LAN and SNMP, and the question was, does it work on different subnets? The answer to that is yes. Okay, depending on how the Domotz agent itself has been configured to look across either VLANs or subnets, you do have the ability to push Wake on LAN services through that. So.
And something similar to that, Ashima is asking, can we monitor servers? And that would be a similar SNMP connection.
Absolutely. Domotz will detect servers and the different IP addresses that these devices have on these servers, so you can look into those and monitor that. I will also point out, with respect to that, that even if you have a server on a different network, a subnet, you have the ability to set Domotz to look at external subnets and see devices outside that. Of course, you need to make sure the networks are configured properly and that you understand the server addresses, but yes, it is very possible.
Okay, we got a number of other questions that we can go over. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So at this point, we will get back to you with those answers to those questions for those of you that have submitted them. And I just want to take a brief moment to thank all of you for joining us today. And we're really excited to talk to you more about Domotz. So please reach out to us if you have some questions. As I said, you can reach CCIIPL in India directly, or reach sales@domotz.com, and we'd love to talk to you. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.